Fine, ma'am.
Okay, we're live now on Facebook. So let's start.
Okay. All right. Ramandeep, what kinds of water do you like to drink?
Could you repeat, ma'am?
Yeah. What kinds of water do you like to drink?
Basically, I'm from Punjab, so in Punjab there is always water is water is pure, so I like to simple water.
Okay, great. Excellent. And then did you enjoy doing academic lessons when you were a child?
Just of course, sometime just of course I like to enjoy my all lessons when I was child. I used to I used to enjoy most of the lecture in history class or in social science studies.
Good. And have you ever written a poem?
I think so. I don't have any knowledge about the poem, so I never try it.
Good. All right. And we're going to move on to part 2. Do you have something that you can write with?
Yes, ma'am, I have.
Okay. All right. And I'm going to put this question into the chat so that everyone can see it. And I think Gladys is going to put it on the screen for you. There you go. All right. Can you see it okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. And let me get my timer really quick. Sorry. All right. So Ramandeep, describe a movie or TV show you want to take part in. You should say what the movie or TV show is, how you knew about it, what you need to prepare for it, and explain why you want to take part in it. And you can have a minute to start preparing now. Okay, and that is 1 minute.
Sure.
And when you're ready, I will start the 2-minute timer.
Ready, ma'am.
Go right ahead.
So, well, I would say that I have watched lots of TV show and web series in my free time. As far as the pandemic is concerned, during pandemic period, Indian government has imposed a lockdown, so everyone is confined to the walls of their house. So during that period, I had watched lots of movies and sitcom comedy shows. So I would particularly, if I had to choose one one shows, I would definitely go for Friends. It is situational comedy, and I like it most. I can say that all the character of the show had they did the justice to their acting, and I would say that I also remember all the character by their name. By for example, there was 6 or 7 character. I don't know, but 6 or 7 character like Joey, Chandler, and Phoebe, or many more. So I would like to like to in the future part of the show because there is lots of it is very popular among the general public and all the kinds of generation and it requires first of all the two or three three things requires to be a part of this show. First of all, a person have a good humorous skill and he has a good communication skill, so that he can handle all the situation in a humorous manner. So I would like to say that I would be part of this show, and in the future, if I got a chance to be a part of the show, I would definitely grab that opportunity. And so that is my take on it.
Excellent. Good. You only had 7 seconds left. Wonderful. All right. Let's move on to part 3. Okay. And Ramandeep, why do you think some news media network use competitions or auditions to find new talent?
So because the news media or a news channel are require those kind of person who has a good communication skill and who be good in the field work. So because every news and every news media requires those kind of student or those kind of talent that can communicate properly with the subject they were talking about. So that's why they are looking for that kind of people.
Good. And is it good to bring children into show business? Why or why not?
Could you repeat my answer?
Yeah. Is it good to bring children into show business? Why or why not?
I think it will depend on the choice of their parents. If the parents have a good thinking about and they are open minded, so they can bring their child to the different shows. And if in India, so lots of people are in the conservative, so they do not like to bring their children with them. So that's why I think it depends on the thinking of the person.
Good. All right. And what about do you think it's okay or good for young children to leave school because they have a showbiz career?
Could you repeat my story?
Yeah, that's okay. Do you think it is good or okay for young children to leave school because of their showbiz career?
I think it's also depend on the young children who would like to make a future in different situation. That's why some people are drop out from the school and leave the school because they have their own choices and they would like to do something different in their life. That's why they leave the schools and part for the show.
Good. All right. And that concludes the speaking portion of the test. And you are done.
Portion of the test. You are done.
All right. Let's see. I have somebody I'm going to mute someone. There we go. All right. So are you ready? Let's go over the first section and then we can give some feedback. And people can definitely give feedback in the chat as well, or they can ask any questions as well in the chat. So to begin, I asked, what kinds of water do you like to drink? And to be honest with you, Ramandeep, I could not hear through your mask what your answer was. So, can you say this one for me one more time? You mentioned that you live in Punjab. And what did you say about what kind of water you like to drink? Can you say it one more time?
Just so I live in Punjab, so there is a water have a no any impurity. So I love to drink a simple water because in other country people are most prefer to the distilled water or other kind of water that are filtered. So I think that in Punjab, and I have no need to worry about the impurities and the purity of water. So I think that the simple water is good for me.
Very good. Okay. Excellent. And um, this is a great answer that you're talking about impurities and that there's other water that is filtered and things like that. And I like how you say where you are from so that you can preface it, what kind of water you have where you live. Because honestly, where I live, you cannot drink the water straight from the faucet because it tastes very bad. So you don't have that problem. Um, but
Yes,
I want to encourage while you are talking with all of these, are you going to be using your mask while you are at the exam? Is that required?
yes, of course they are telling us to use a mask.
Good. I'm glad that you're practicing with it too. Just make sure that you are talking loud enough. And also, you want to make sure because the mask is an added issue, slow down. Even if you didn't have the mask on, you definitely need to slow down a little bit while you're talking so that you can make
Yes.
sure you're understood. So instead of saying in Punjab, there's water that doesn't have any impurities in it. In other countries, they have waters that are filtered and things like this, and I don't need to worry about these impurities. It sounds like you are running a race and that you're going to run out of breath. So I would just encourage you to slow down. So in Punjab, um, there is water that doesn't have any impurities in it. And then you could say, it's bottled water, it's directly from the faucet. Where do you get this water at?
Mainly from tap
From the tap.
and
Good. Yeah, you can
uh,
say it comes right from our tap.
or
Um,
tube
yeah.
or tube
Yeah.
well.
So you don't even have to buy a bottle of this kind of water. It's just the same, it just comes out of your tap water.
Yes, ma'am, of course.
That's great. That's really lucky. That's wonderful. Good. All right, and let's go to the next one. Did you enjoy doing academic lessons when you were a child? And you said yes, of course. You answered right away your opinion, so that's great. I used to enjoy lectures in history class or social studies, um, and then didn't really have much more to say. So in part one, there you want to try to give a little bit more information if you're able to. So, could you say, why you liked those kinds of classes? Or maybe it was because of a particular professor or teacher that you had? Or can you remember anything about that specific class? So, yes, of course, I used to enjoy lectures in history or social studies class. And I think this is because when I was in grade 5 or whatever, I had a wonderful teacher named, and you could talk about that. And they used to make history come alive for me, and they did such a great job teaching it. So,
Okay.
do you have any particular reason why you like history, or are you just a history lover?
Because I love to read history and other historical events that are particularly related to my country. That's why I
That's
love
great.
history.
That's great. Yeah, you could say I've always loved reading stories and even watching movies about history, and especially as it relates to my particular country. And then you could even say, if you wanted to, just recently or when I was a child, I remember learning about this specific part of our history. And I thought it was just really enjoyable. All right. And
Okay.
then have you ever written a poem? This is very hard because if you haven't, excuse me, if you haven't written a poem, what are you supposed to say? But you did tell me, I think so. I don't have any knowledge about this point, so I've never tried it. So, have you written a poem or have you not written a poem?
Never.
Okay, good. So, at the beginning, don't say, I think so, because that means sort of yes, if I can remember. Um, just say, I've never written a poem. I actually don't have any knowledge about this, and I have never tried it. But
Okay.
have you ever have you ever read a
Or I
poem
can say,
before?
or I can say that I'm more into painting or calligraphy.
Exactly. Yeah, you can say, and this was said, have you ever written? So it means in the past. So it could be kind of talking about your school days, or because the one before it was talking about that. So you could say, as a child, I was really more into sports, or I was really more into something else rather than poetry. So you can use the word poetry to describe, the genre of writing, and poem is the specific thing. But or you could also say, I've actually never even read a poem and I don't really like them. Or you can say, poetry is very difficult for me and I don't understand it, so I've never tried to write one. So,
Okay.
yeah, just give a little bit more information, but that's a great strategy. If it's not something that you have ever done, you can kind of relate to it by saying, I didn't write poetry as a child, but I did do this instead. So
Okay.
good. All right. And we're going to move on to part two. describe a movie or TV show you want to take part in, and you mentioned Friends. Is that right?
Yeah.
This is a great show. Um, and you said during the pandemic, you talked about during that period, you have viewed lots of comedies and TV shows. And that's
Yeah.
a great beginning to talk about TV shows in general. You said, but if I had to choose, I would definitely go for Friends. Um, I can say that all of the actors in the show, they did justice to their acting, or all of the, professionals, you can
Correct.
even call them, yeah, the actors and actresses, or the, entertainment professionals, whatever you want to call them. They did justice to their acting. And you talked about there are 6 or 7 characters. Some of them are Phoebe, Joey, Chandler, and many more. And you said so. It's very popular among the younger generation, and 2 or 3 things are required to be part of the show. But the main one is um, to have a good or humorous you said skill, but let's change it from being a skill to being like a personality, because
Okay.
like a good or humorous personality or character,
Okay.
character trait or something like that. And so I would like to be a part of this show, and if I had the chance to in the future, I would definitely jump at that. So again, on part 2, just make sure you slow down. I know you only had a few seconds left. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, and you could talk about even one particular character in the show. You could say, you mentioned Joey, who's really funny in the show. You could say, I would definitely want to be like Joey in the show because he is the funniest one and everyone's always laughing at what he says, and he's sort of the life of the party or something like
Okay.
that, Good.
Yes.
All right. Let's move on to part 3. So, why do you think some news media networks use competitions or auditions to find new talent? So, do you have any kind of reality TV shows in Punjab or in India in general that are like a singing competition or a dancing competition?
Yeah. India have an Indian Idol or for
Indian
music
Idol.
competition.
Okay. So, yeah. So, this is exactly what this is talking about. So, they say, why does some news media networks, what channel is Indian Idol on? Do you know? Is it on a certain channel?
For me.
Okay. Yeah. Good. So, that's what means by news media network. What channel is giving this? So you said several news media or news channel require those persons who are good communication skills, and every news requires those kind of skills. And so we can talk about, honestly, this question is really hard for me too. So I would actually start out by saying, I really don't have much knowledge about this, but I think you might be talking about a show like Indian Idol or this. And I think those shows have competitions to find new talent because it is just entertaining. And they like to give
Encourage.
the average person the chance to become famous.
Okay. Or
So
they want to increase the TRP.
say that one more time.
They want to increase the TRP or audience. That's why
Yeah,
they are.
yeah, definitely.
Simple.
They want to give some, yeah, yeah, good. So it's entertaining. Um, they can they can use this competition, one, to earn money for the TV network, and two, to reach a large number of people at once. And they can also make the normal people at home feel like this is something that they could possibly do. So of course you're going to watch, right? So, all right. And then, is it good to bring children into show business and why? And then you said, I think it will depend on the child and their parents. Um, and then you said it again, I think it will depend on the parents. So let's try to be careful about repeating. Um, and then this is one where you can um, this is kind of difficult too because these are not situations that we really face as everyday people.
Yes,
But
yes.
we could talk about, you know, that is it okay for young children to be working at such a young age? So think about it. You could say, you could get really specific and you could say, for example, if a 5-year-old is a famous actor, um, his parents are going to have to bring him to, we have Hollywood. What do you have? Do you have something that's the equivalent of Hollywood?
Bollywood.
Bollywood. Okay, so yeah, you could say his parents are going to have to bring him to Bollywood, and sometimes that environment can be unsafe for children or maybe inappropriate for children. So if that's your opinion, and you can go that way. And then, kind of on the same note, do you think it's good for young children to leave school, to not go to school anymore because they have a job, because they're an actor or actress or a
Yes.
singer or things like that? So if you had a child, Ramandeep, and they were really talented and they, wanted to become a singer, would you let them leave school to do that?
No, I can say that you have to side by side, so that in a part time or as a their profession they can choose for that.
Yeah.
Education is also important.
Do you think it would depend on their age? Is that important to you? So let's just say if it was a child that was maybe 16 years old, they can kind of make more decisions for themselves. But what if it's a really, really young child? Someone who might only be
So I
six
think
or seven.
at that such a young age, so it's responsible to parents because they can have more experience about the different things and the worldly knowledge about a child cannot understand all these things at such a young age. So I think that the parents should intervene at that time.
Very good. Good. So you can kind of do a thing like this. Before you said, I think it depends on the parents and their child. And you can say, almost like I mentioned before, this sort of depends on the specific kid and his mom and dad. So we can try to use different words: child, mom and dad, or parents. You could say if a child, or an actor or actress is quite young, like maybe in primary school age, they don't know much about the world around them. And at that point, I think a parent needs to step in and show them, what
Yes,
things
yes,
are beneficial or what things. But if a child is older, maybe in secondary school or even college, I think they are old enough to make those kinds of choices on their own.
yes.
So, very good. Excellent. How do you feel about having your mock test? Did you have any questions about the topics? You got some really hard ones.
Yes, yes. But this is my first time I already
Yeah.
intuitively.
Okay. I would definitely, if you have a chance,
Yes,
maybe look into poetry just a little bit. And if you have never read any poetry ever, there's a really good poetry book that's a children's book, and it's called Runny Babbit. And I'll put it into the chat, but it's sort of a play on English words. It shows a picture of a bunny rabbit, but the name is called Runny Babbit because they switch the letter of every word to see if you can understand what is being said. So it's poetry, but it's also comedy at the same time, sort of. And you like comedy from Friends. So, but I'll
I
put it
want.
into the I'll put it into the chat. If you can't find it in like a bookstore, it's I'm guaranteeing you that it's on YouTube. Someone will read it on YouTube. But yeah, I would look at poetry just a little bit, or poems, or you can even look at you know, look up, are there any poets in Punjab or any poets in India in general? So,
Yes, there are many poets in Punjab like Shiv
okay,
Kumar.
good.
Yes,
There's many, I'm sure. Every
yes,
country has these kind of talented people, right?
yes, yes.
Good. All right. And Gladys, did you have any comments that you wanted to share with Ramandeep?
So for me, Raman, what I've only noticed was that you were too fast on talking. Just like what Mandy have mentioned earlier, but try to relax. Probably because you were
Oh,
having this thought that you are timed. So just relax and then try to think of the words that you want to say, because you have the idea. You have the idea of every questions. However, your delivery pulls you down. So I suggest that you need to relax and then try to enunciate the words that you are saying, even though you have the mask. Okay?
Okay.
So good luck to your exam. Okay?
Thank you.
So thank you for
Yeah.
being
Thank
the
you very
first one.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
exactly.
much.
Raman.
When
Uh-uh.
you have that
Thank
mask on, you're definitely going to need to slow yourself down and talk almost like the person that you're talking to is a grandma or grandpa and can't hear you. So, yeah, act like they're a little hard of hearing.
True.
Oh, a dog.
Yeah, sorry, that's my dog.
That's
That is
okay.
why
Don't
I'm
worry about it.
muting my.
That's okay. All right. Thank you
Okay.
for going first,
Okay,
Ramandeep.
thank you, Raman. So now
thank
let's
you,
move
ma'am.
on with Paul. Paul Pascual. Paul Pascual.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right.
Hi.
Paul
Hi.
Pasquale. Hi, Paul.
Hi.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great, but I'm actually nervous.
Okay. Don't worry about it, Paul. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. And you have a mask as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna do our best to practice with that on. So thank you for wearing it.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so let's get started. Um, who do you spend the most time talking to on video chat?
Well, since I'm single, so but I have a girlfriend. So most of the time, I'm talking to my girlfriend from morning to afternoon, then until evening before I sleep. And I really love talking to her and tell her anything that's happening to me all day long. Yeah. So that's my girlfriend.
Good. And when do you think you'll next make a video call?
Well, probably after this class, I will make a video call to her and update her of what's happening. And I'm excited to tell her because this is my first time actually to talk to or to undergo a training like this. So later I will call her after this and will tell her anything happened during my mock test exam or review rather.
Good.
Yeah.
And then, do you sometimes prefer to send a message instead of video chat?
Actually, I'm not a fan of texting or sending an email because it's really tiring for me to do that. So I'd rather call or I'd rather use or make a video call for me to express more anything that I wanted to tell to a person. So I'd rather go with that a video call because for me that's very convenient and it's easy to use. So that's what it
Good.
is.
Excellent. All right. And we're going to move on to part two now. And I'm
Mhm.
going to put it into the chat for you. And it will actually come up on the screen too, so you don't have to worry about it. All right. And once it's up there, I'm going to read it and you'll get a minute to prepare. So here's the question. Describe the person in your school who you most admire. You should say what their relationship is to you, what they have done in their life, what they do now, and explain why you admire them so much. And you can have a minute to prepare now. Okay, Paul, there's 1 minute for you. And when you are ready, you can begin.
All right. Thank you for that wonderful question. So I want to share to you the one of the best person during my school days is my teacher, which is or who is rather our nursing teacher, Mr. Edmond. He's one of the best teacher for me during my school days because he taught me everything, or he taught us everything that we need for us to improve more on our nursing skills. And we are actually close, like we are a brother. He's acting like my mentor and also a father to me whenever I need someone to talk to. And that's closeness bring us to more more wonderful relationship that we have right now. And I want to be like, and everything that he has taught us is like, or he taught us, or rather he taught me to become more in excellent in everything that I'm doing, like to go an extra mile in everything that I am doing, because he's like that. He go an extra mile in everything because right now the life that he had is really amazing. He achieved everything that he wants before, and he's driving his own car, his favorite. He has his own house, and he can provide wealth for his family. And before before he taught us to he's actually acting like a mentor to me, mentor in everything that I'm doing. Like for example, in our theses, in our school days, or in everything that I need, is acting like a mentor to me. And what I like about him rather, is his dedication to his job and the character. Because yes.
Good. That's okay. All right. And let's move on to part 3. All right. So, how do mobile phones influence or change people's lives?
Well, in the Philippines, the tradition here in the family is like, we every time we had our dinner, we talk about what happened to us on our on a daily basis. And sometimes mobile phones affect us because the bonding is being one is the bonding is being affected by these gadgets. So I think it actually get the times. For example, whenever we eat dinner, some of my brother actually is using mobile phone, so we don't have enough time to get bonding.
Good. And it's the genotype of successful people the same from others? I'm sorry, is
Uh,
the genotype of successful people the same as others?
Genotype. Well, actually, ma'am, I don't have an idea when it comes to the genotype, but for me,
Let me
if I'm not
spell it
mistaken,
for you and see if that might give you a clue. Are you ready? I don't know if they're going to do this, but it's GENOTYPE. So
uh-huh.
genotype. So I'm going to say it one more time. Is the genotype of successful people the same as others?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I don't have any idea with regards to genotype, but if I'm not mistaken, I heard it from my friend. So I think a genotype person is the same with the usual successful people, because they actually have their own drive, the same drive rather, to become successful and to achieve things in life to make them more better.
Good. And how do innovations influence the global process?
Well, innovations is a key for us to move. It is actually the key factor that shows that our country is moving good, our economy is moving good. So it helps actually the country to to express more about the or to maximize the full potential of what a country can offer. And aside from that, it will help the economy rather to grow more and to provide a better life for their citizens. So I think innovation is has a big advantage or give a big advantage when it comes to productivity of a country.
Good. All right. And that concludes the speaking portion of your test. You're done. How do you feel?
It's really hard, ma'am.
I know
And
you got some really hard questions. Let's Google genotype really quick so that everyone can know what it means and we don't have any questions. So the root word in it is gene, like your DNA.
Mhm.
So if you're using it, um, let's see. We can talk about it scientifically or what it kind of maybe means here. Um, so it's the genetic constitution of an individual or organism. So if you're going to use it in relation to, I think this kind of question, it basically means do successful people have the same DNA as regular people? And you can
All
mean that
right.
you can mean that like literally their DNA, like is there anything that makes successful people at their scientific core different than a non-successful person or regular people? Or is there something different? Or you can say, and I think you kind of touched on it a little bit when you talked about their personality or maybe their character traits or things like that.
All right.
So you could probably say, at our core, we're all made up of the same materials,
Mm-hmm.
scientifically, because I think you are a nurse, right?
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
but you could say, however, there's just something about a successful person's personality that we could kind
Mm-hmm.
of say is built into their DNA. And so you could use DNA as sort of synonymous with genotype. So if I use the word DNA, did it make a little more sense to you or not really?
Yeah, actually, if you're gonna use DNA, probably I can express more.
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
expound my answer.
Okay.
But
So we'll get to that. But what were you going to say?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go to part one and we'll talk about those. So, who do you spend the most time talking to on video chat? You said, well, since I'm single, but I have a girlfriend. So, most of the time I'm talking to my girlfriend from morning to afternoon until I sleep. I really like to video chat with her. And so, you talked about your girlfriend. And when you mention girlfriend again, you can actually give her name and then use her name in the answer as well because it is about you. There's not really another word for, girlfriend that means girlfriend. I mean, you can say my loved one, but that's kind of impersonal.
Yes,
You could say the slang terms like my boo, but you don't want to say something that's so slang like that.
my boo.
So yeah, and you don't want to call her Kath has my lover, but it's just kind of awkward to say that. But yeah, you could say, I'm single, but I have a girlfriend, and her name is, whatever her name
Yeah.
is.
Mm.
So most of the time, I'm talking to her, or you could say her name from morning until afternoon. Actually until I sleep sometimes. I really like to talk with her, and then you can tell me just maybe give me a specific conversation. It doesn't have to be anything too personal, but you could say, typically, whenever we call each other, we talk about everything and nothing. We sometimes tell
Mm-hmm.
each other what we ate, or then we talk about what our future plans might be.
All right.
So
Yeah.
we can talk about anything, or we can sit there and say nothing. So
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
And then when do you think you'll next make a video call? And I loved your answer. It was very honest and you got right to the point. Probably after this class, I will make a video call to her to update her and tell what's going on. And I'm excited to tell her. So I will call her and tell her anything that happened. So when you're telling her anything that happened, you want to actually change it to everything that happened.
Okay.
So I'm going to call her and tell her everything that happened. I can say, how my performance was and talk with her about the topics and see if she has any idea on genotype, you know, something like that. But you didn't get
Yeah.
that question until the end. So I understand. And
Yes.
then the next one, do you sometimes prefer to send a message instead of a video chat? And you said, actually, I'm not a fan of texting or sending an email. So this is great. They said message, but you said texting or email, which is the other options. Versus the kind of the opposite of video chat. You said, because it's very tiring for me to do that. Yeah, it's time consuming. Um, you said, so I'd rather use a video call to express. And then you said, then you also said, so I'd rather go with that. And that's a video call. So make sure that we're careful about repeating. Um, and what is helpful here is also to give, a specific example. So
Examples.
you can use someone that you called, since you have already talked about your girlfriend, maybe you could talk about someone else,
Mm-hmm.
that you only video call and you never text. So you can say, actually, my brother, or not actually, but because we already said that, for example, my brother hates it when I send him text messages and he never answers me. So a video call is what I prefer to do so that I can get in touch with him, or that's my preferred
All right.
method of communication.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm surprised that you choose this, because some people hate video calls because they have to be, presentable. Unless I guess you can just use
Yeah.
like an avatar or a picture. So that's a
Well,
possibility.
sometimes when I'm driving, I'd rather do video call because
Mm,
it's really hard for me to text of most especially
ex-
the work while at work.
yeah, during work. Okay. And that's
So
actually another good thing to say. You could say, oftentimes when I'm in my car is the time that I have to chat with people. So rather than texting and driving, which we all know is illegal, I prefer
mm-hmm,
to just turn on the video chat and pay attention to the road, but talk at the same time. It's almost like they're sitting next to me while
mm-hmm,
I'm driving. So you could mention something like that. Or you can
yeah,
say, when I use my type or text to talk, I think on the iPhone it's Siri, right? She never understands what I say. She always gets my words wrong or something like
yeah,
that. So yeah. Yeah, so you can, and you can also go with the way of, some people might say, we can give a few more ideas. Some people prefer video chat because texting has no emotion with it.
mm-hmm,
Your girlfriend could say something to you, but because she's your girlfriend, she could be saying one thing and meaning something else.
yeah.
As women
I
often
always
do.
experience that. I
Yeah,
often
so
experience that.
you can say, I need to hear this from your face instead of seeing it on the screen, because I need to know how you're feeling, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Very
Yes,
good.
ma'am.
So, yeah, Gladys is right. This is Women 101. Often what we say is not what we mean. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so let's talk about your question, which is, describe the person in your school who you most admire. You should say what the relationship is to you, what they have done in their life, what they do now, and explain why you admire them so much. And so this was your teacher or your professor when you were in nursing school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Tell me his name one more time. I didn't write it down.
Edmund,
Edmund, Mr. Is it, do you just call him Mr. Edmund or
Sir Edmund.
Sir
Sometimes
Edmund?
I call him Kuya, which is a
Kuya?
brother. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. And if you even want to mention that, you can. Just make
Oh,
sure,
yeah.
oftentimes I call him Kuya Edmund, which just means brother, because we're so close. Our
Yes.
relationship is really we're really tight knit is what you can also say. And I'll write that into the chat. So tight knit means that you're just close to each other. Like if you think about clothes are knit really tight so that they don't fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
So good. And you said, thank you for the wonderful question. I want to share with you one of the persons during our school days. So make sure it's about me during my one of the persons during my school days. You said he's one of the best teachers for me during our school day because he taught us everything, and we are actually close, like brothers. Sometimes I call him Kuya Edmund. You could say that right there, and he's also a mentor to me. Um, and that closeness brings us to a more wonderful relationship that we have right now. Everything he has taught me to become, everything he has taught me to become more excellent in everything. So here I understand what you're saying, Paul. You're starting with one sentence and then you want to change the way that you say it. But what it sounds like is you didn't complete a sentence and then so, what you can do here is if you're starting to say something a certain way and you think of a better way to say it, just pause and say, actually,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm trying to say is, or what I mean
Oh
to
yeah.
say is, or my meaning here, or let me explain myself. He's just an amazing person and someone I really look up to. He has taught me to
Mm-hmm.
go the extra mile in everything in life. Um, and then you kind of don't just stop speaking and they get confused about what you were saying. You're telling them, okay, throw that away, what I just said.
Uh-huh.
I want to
Uh-huh.
just say it in a better way. Um,
Yeah, I
and people do that all the time in real life. They saying
understand.
something and it doesn't make sense, so then they change what they're saying. um, anyway, all right. And you said and now the life that he had is really amazing, or the life that he had is really amazing. So had and is are kind of, contradictory here. So the life that he has
He
is
has, yeah.
amazing, or that he had was amazing. So
Was.
the life that he has is really amazing. He achieved everything that he wants before. So he has achieved everything he wanted before.
Before. Oh yeah.
And before what? Like before he's retired or before a certain age? Before
Mm-hmm.
when? So what would you say?
Before we were, during our school days, he doesn't have a car, but
Mm,
right now, yeah, he bought one.
okay. Yeah. So good. She said, so he has achieved everything that he has wanted. Um, and you said before during our school days, he didn't have his own car, but now he has gained some success and he's driving his own car. He has his own
Oh yeah.
house and he can provide well for his family. And you did an excellent job here, with that kind of list: house, car, provide for his family. And so that's a great thing to do right there. And
Thank you, ma'am.
and then you said, and before he taught us, he's actually acting like a mentor to me. So I think you're using the word before to refer to your school days. So instead of saying before, because it's kind of ambiguous here, it can mean, two things depending on what comes before it and after it. You can say, and during that time, or when I was a student, or in my younger days as a nursing student, or you can even say in nursing school, he taught
Yes.
us, and he's actually acting like a mentor to me. And you said again, he's acting like a mentor to me. So you've mentioned mentor several times. And so I just want to encourage
Advocate.
you to think of something different. So we can have people put into the chat. So I think I already said role model is one. So that's two words, but people say it fast enough so it sounds like one word. Role model.
Role model.
Yeah, a role model. You can also say he's someone that we look up to. So that means that, they're up here and you really want to be like them. Just like your parent, you
Yes.
look up to your parent. You
Yes, ma'am.
mentioned that he's like a brother, and you could even say like a big brother. You could add that adjective to it because, when we say someone's a big brother or big sister to us, it means that they are older and wiser than us. So good.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Great. All right. And you used all of the time. I think I actually cut you off, but at the end you started to get really good and say, what I like about him is his character and his dedication. Bring that stuff in sooner.
Yeah, yeah.
So talk about
Actually,
that sooner. Yeah, what was your question?
Actually, ma'am, I forgot the question. That's why I'm
That's okay.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm answering you correct or what.
Okay.
So, but I keep on going because my I thought you'll just post the question while
Did it
I'm answering. I mean,
did it
af-
not show up
what
on the chat for you?
uh it sh-
Oh,
uh
okay.
what I mean is while I'm answering, I thought it was like that, but
Okay. So
I
in the
forgot.
real, yeah, it's okay. In the real IELTS, let's have Gladys or someone who's here. Please let us know. Is Gladys here? So
Yes.
if I'm going to ask the question, so if Paul is doing this test in person, we definitely know that he gets a cue card, right? However,
Oh yeah.
if people are doing the test via Zoom, how is the question presented while he is speaking? So I guess what I'm asking is specifically if Paul is doing this class via Zoom or something like that, let's just throw that out there. They put the question onto the screen. Do they leave it on the screen the entire 2 minutes while he's talking? Because that seems like it would be the same fairness as if he was in person. Is that true or not true?
To be honest, it really depends on the exam provider. So, on my
Mm-hmm.
case, back in November, we were the first, I think we were the first batch to use Zoom. So, it was only shown for 1 minute preparation. And then they
Really?
removed
All
it.
right.
Yeah. But I do not know
Wow.
now.
Okay.
Okay. I
Yeah.
do not know on the recent examinees if the question was stayed there until the 2 minutes.
Okay.
I see. I see.
And now,
But
are you
mine,
doing
it
the
was
test in
removed.
person or online, Paul?
Yes, I'll do the test in person, one face to
Okay.
face.
So
So
if
I
he's
think that's an
doing it face
advantage.
to face, it is seem like an advantage because he doesn't have to
Yeah.
give back the cue card until he's done, right?
It also depends on the examiner.
Okay.
What?
Yeah, it also depends on the examiner. So there are some examiners collect it after the 1 minute preparation. However, you can ask if it can stay with you. But it depends on the examiner
Yeah.
if
Mm-hmm.
he or she will allow you because of the
Yes.
Oh, I
Don't
see.
be
restrictions.
I
nice,
see.
Paul. Ask for what you want.
Mhm.
Be like, I
All
would
right,
like
ma'am.
to hold this card
Yeah,
until
yeah,
it's
Yes,
yeah.
done.
I will.
The worst thing they can say is no.
yes.
Yeah,
But
I will.
but my suggestion for you is that try to remember the question because you have that 1 minute. So try to memorize it or try to extract some cue words that
Keywords.
will remind you that oh this is the question, right?
All right, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
And
it.
what's important in this question, and we've talked about it previously, the question has the main question, and that is
Mm-hmm.
all they are really wanting you to answer. Those bullet
Mm-hmm.
points, what their relationship is, what they have done in their life, what they do now, and
Mm-hmm.
explain why you admire them, those are to help you. So, if you only talk about the person you admire and you don't mention all of those things, you've still answered the question, but that's to help you develop it. So if you don't need
Yes,
all
ma'am.
those bullet points, don't use
Mm-hmm.
them. But if you need them,
Mm-hmm.
you definitely want to write them down. You might say relationship, life now,
All right.
successes, and why. Always put
Uh-huh.
why.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, we have
Yeah,
a
got it. Thank you, ma'am.
we have an answer from Pechi. So here in Kuwait, it was in the screen for the whole 2 minutes. So it really
Okay.
depends.
Okay. Yeah,
Oh.
it really depends. But I would be bold and say, just like you're going to say, hey, can you repeat that question? You can say, I'm sorry, could you leave the cue card for the full 2 minutes? Thank you. And
Yes.
if
Yeah,
they say no, you're like,
I'll be
okay.
honest for you.
Yes. You need to ask
Yeah.
what you need because you paid
You
for it.
deserve every advantage.
You
Actually,
paid for
actually.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You're paying for that.
And
You're like, I want
I don't
every
want to
minute
take
that
the
I paid
exam
for.
again.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, and that's what I would encourage you. If you don't remember, I think that might be the reason why we heard some repetition of phrases here. He's a
Mm-hmm.
mentor. He's a mentor.
Yeah.
And this would be good to also use specific examples, Paul. So, was he just your teacher in general, or did he teach you a specific subject? I've never been to nursing school, so I don't know how it works. Um,
Yeah. He's our teacher for like for three subjects, and most of the time, he's our lecturer.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So you could even say that kind of thing. You could say, is it Edmund, right? Edmund?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir,
Yes,
yeah,
ma'am.
Sir Edmund was our teacher for these three topics, which
Mhm.
actually were really difficult. And he helped me learn some strategies to remember
All right.
these things. And every time I am working and use that knowledge now, I fondly think of him.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of what he did for us and what he taught us in nursing school. So you can get really specific, or for another instance, let's say if he was teaching you, I don't know. The only thing I know about nursing is how to draw blood or how to find a vein. That seems to
Yes,
be
ma'am.
a good nurse or not a good nurse can find or not find a vein. So, you can say, I vividly remember the time he taught us the best way to find a patient's
To
vein.
find.
He did this
Yes.
and he did that. And when you're able to talk specifically about something rather than just in general, it will help the
Mm-hmm.
words come a little bit better. Okay, so Gladys is saying that's called being a sharpshooter if you can find a vein.
Sharpshooter.
Oh gosh, I've never heard of this. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And kind of sad at this. It's scary. All right. So I loved your answer on the next one. How do mobile phones influence or change people's lives? And you jumped right into your answer. You said here in the Philippines, um, the tradition is, or here in the Philippines. So don't start and then stop your sentence unless you're going to tell me why or what you're doing. So here in the Philippines, the tradition is, or actually what I'm trying to say is, every dinner or during the dinner time in the Philippines, we talk about our lives. We sit around and we chit chat and catch up. And sometimes mobile phones affect us because the bonding is being affected. So you said affects us and affected right back to back. So you can say mobile phones impact us, or mobile phones have a negative um, connotation, or mobile phones steal. You can say mobile phones steal our bonding time
Yes.
because,
Still.
yeah, whenever we are supposed to be sitting down and eating and talking, people are on the phone. And you said, for example, whenever we eat dinner, some of my brother, so do you have some of my brothers or just sometimes my
My
brother?
brother. My brother.
So one
Something.
brother. Okay, so you can say, for example, whenever we eat dinner, sometimes my brother is using his mobile phone, so we don't have enough time to get bonding or to catch up. So we can think of different words for bonding. So catch up, chit chat, um, you know, some people have lots of, I'm trying to think of other ways to say it. So, or we just don't have enough time to spend together. Um, and you don't get bonding, but we bond. You can just use it like that. You don't
Mm-hmm.
make bonding or get bonding, you just bond itself. um,
Yes, ma'am.
and you can be really specific here, um, although it's kind of difficult because it is part three. So let's try to use it in the third person. So you can say, for example, when families are eating dinner and one family member, say the brother, or the child is using their phone and texting or on Facebook, or watching YouTube videos during dinner, it really breaks that bonding time that they have with one another and doesn't allow them to catch up or chit chat about their day.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah,
if you wanted to
that's
go
a good thing.
further, you could even
Mm-hmm.
offer a solution.
Uh-huh.
So some people like to offer a solution. If you want to talk more, just know that on part three, since it's going to be your first time, right, they will stop you if they have to keep going, not because you have done anything wrong, but because they've heard what they need to hear and they need to
Uh-huh.
move on.
Yes,
So
ma'am. All right.
all right. So, is the genotype of successful people the same from others? We talked about this a little bit. So, well, as I mentioned, I don't have any idea with regards to genotype. or you could say, actually, this is kind of a new word for me, genotype. And I'm going to ask in the chat, can I know in a spelling bee, the person can ask for a definition? Is that allowed in the IELTS or not at all? Do you know, Paul, or do you want me to ask?
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure how a question like this can be handled if there is a really if you just don't understand what genotype means. If you're able to say, I'm sorry, could you give a definition? Could you say that in another way? Or
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, but anyway, let's keep going
I
with the
hope so.
answer. I hope so
Uh-huh.
too. Yeah. And you said, I don't have any idea with regards to genotype. And just like we had Ramandeep before and poetry or poems, he had no knowledge of it. So, Kath is asking me, is it okay to say while trying to answer, is it okay to say, while trying to answer the questions? Okay. I think, and Paul, I don't know in your training if you have come across this, but Kath, I think, is asking while you're talking, can you say the phrase, or like, okay, to understand?
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
I'm
mm-hmm.
not sure. I think that might make it quite informal because if you're saying to the examiner, I don't think they're going to say, yeah, I get it. I understand. But it
Yeah.
does
All right.
sound really natural. So I'll talk about that at the end and we'll try to get an answer. So you said, as I've mentioned, I don't have any idea with regards to genotype. And I liked how you said, if I'm not mistaken, a friend of mine, mentioned this word. And you said, I think the genotype is the same as regular people. But then you said they have the drive to, make things. And I liked how you said the drive, because we're talking about being successful. They have the motivation, the drive. Um, so yeah, this one is really difficult,
Tough.
especially if you don't understand it. But now that you know it means DNA, essentially,
Yeah.
let's have another go at it. So, Paul, is the genotype of successful people the same as others, as regular people?
As far as I know, genotype people is like they have different drive in their careers and everything that they're doing. And most of the time, they are the people like the achiever, and they want to achieve more. And most especially, for example, if they are from the family of doctors, so that's their blood. That's the blood that runs to them. So they need to fulfill that. So there's a pressure in doing that to be like them. I mean, the pressure. What I'm trying to say is the pressure of I need to be a doctor also. I need to be like them, and I need to be like that. Compared to a regular person, just want to be successful and without worrying anything. Just do things like just to provide for their family.
Good,
I think,
excellent.
yeah.
I like how you mentioned that it's in their blood and that it flows through their veins. Sometimes we often think about, blood being our DNA, which it does have, some of our DNA in it. And that's a common expression. You can say, being a doctor and being a successful person runs in their blood. It's in their blood or it runs through their veins. So that's another way of saying it's in their DNA or it's
Yes, ma'am.
part of their, it's part of their it's kind of ingrained in them. So if you were to compare like to a person like a computer, it would be part of their programming.
All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right. And then how do innovations influence the global process? And anytime I hear global process, I'm like, what in the world does this mean?
Yeah, it's actually hard.
And I feel like maybe global process is similar to globalization. Anyone can correct me if I am wrong because I don't know all the words in the world. So what is global process? I'm going to look this up. Um and it's actually Google is asking me what is a global processor? Google doesn't even know. All right. So it's something that affects the larger portion of the world as opposed to just locally or nationally. Um, So, an example of a global process is a pandemic. So, I guess it means the
Mm,
global development is what we could say here.
yeah.
All right. So, let's try this one. You said, well, innovations is a key. So, when you said innovations is, when you're putting that plural on the end of it, you want to say innovations are a key
Are.
for
All
us
right.
to move forward. So, just be careful. Innovations are or innovation is. So just be really
Yes, ma'am.
careful about which one you're going to use. Is a key factor that shows our country is moving good. Our economy is moving good. And when we talk about moving, we usually say moving forward or moving backward. So moving forward means you're making progress, and moving backward means you are regressing and you are not making progress. So instead of saying moving good, let's say moving forward or moving up.
All right,
You
ma'am.
know, so in this situation, forward or up is positive, backward or down is negative. Um,
Yes, ma'am.
you said it helps the country um, to maximize the full potential of what the country can offer. And aside from that, it will also help the country. And I like to innovations. And then you talked about when they help with the productivity of the country. And so, did you have an idea about what innovations are, or were you just trying to guess? Like, can you
If
think of a
as
specific
far
innovation?
as far as like the for example the uh, let's go to email.
Hmm.
Instead of sending an email through a letter or through a carrier, it can be sent through an internet, to the use of internet. So I think that's innovation for me.
Yeah, yeah, and you can even go bigger and say, let's take for instance the internet, which is a huge topic. But yeah, well, let's go to your
Mm-hmm.
specific one. Let me let this person in really quick. I'm sorry. Let's take so that's great idea right there, is to go for that example. So give your opinion, give your reason, and then give a specific example. So you can say, let's take for example email. And I liked how you said let's take for example, or instead of saying for example, let's take for example email is a very common way of talking with someone. So email, in the past when things needed to be sent via carrier, they could take many days or they could get lost. But, email is an innovation or an invention that allows us to, you know, communicate globally with
Yeah.
anyone, anywhere, at any time. So try to
Yes.
use the word global or worldwide or international in the
International.
answer so they know you understand that it means not just the Philippines, but it affects everything.
All right.
So good. And yeah, that I think you had some great vocabulary words in there, maximizing the full potential, productivity of the country or productivity, innovations. You said a key factor. So a key factor, you talked about the economy. Um, and then, yeah, you had some really good vocabulary in that one. So
Thank you.
good job. All right. Are you
Yeah. Thank
exhausted
you.
now?
Yeah, I'm actually exhausted.
You should feel really mentally tired right now.
Honestly, I agree with that.
Yeah. Every time you do this,
But
like, people think you're only physically exhausted. I'm sorry, your brain can be tired.
yes, ma'am. But I really appreciate this because this
Yeah.
helps me a lot.
Well, I'm
And
glad.
yeah, yeah. Thank you very much for
Good.
your
And
effort, ma'am.
yeah, Gladys, do you have some things
Thank
you
you,
would like to say to
Paul.
Paul?
I think that's it. Because you've already mentioned the jumping of ideas,
Hmm.
so I think you must um, think or redirect your thoughts before giving out your answer.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
if
yeah.
not, you cannot take it back. It's hard to take it back. Believe me, been
Yeah,
there,
yeah, you
done
can't
that.
delete that text
So
message.
yes, you need to listen carefully on what is being asked, and then from there, if you do not really understand it, ask for some clarifications. So
Actually,
the examiner would give you, sorry.
yes, ma'am. Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm listening.
uh,
The examiner
yeah,
will give
so
you.
so from
Mhm.
there, a clarification, or the examiner would paraphrase the question for
Okay.
All
you,
right.
so that you will
What
understand it
language could
easier.
Paul say other than saying, I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? What could he say if he needs clarification? So,
Okay, so for instance, the
mhm.
genotype. Okay, let's go with the
Yes.
genotype. So, okay, so if you're going to ask that to the examiner, so you could say, do you mean by genotype is, or I'm sorry, I do not have any idea with regard to genotype, but what I know is that,
Hmm.
or you could also say, uh, may I? No, no, you cannot ask the no,
You can't ask the
the
definition.
meaning,
Okay. But could
the
he say, I'm
definition.
sorry, could
So
you paraphrase that? Or is that not allowed?
personally, if I am going to be, or if the examiner is being asked, if can you please paraphrase it, there is a criteria on the band descriptor that you need to paraphrase the
Mm,
question. So if the examiner would paraphrase it for
mm,
you, well, it seems like, oh, you do not know how to paraphrase this one.
Or maybe you could.
So there's a minus in your band descriptor,
okay.
in your band score. So what are they going to do is that they're going to ask you the same question but in a different manner.
Will
Oh
they
yeah.
use the
All right.
exact same words? Or,
On my experience, they find some easier words for it
okay.
so
Mm,
that it is easier for you to understand.
Mm.
okay, I see.
So,
So I
So
just need
is
to
it
be
but
a
the
risk?
bottom
transparent.
line,
Is it a risk to ask
yes,
that?
but the bottom line here is that you need to read.
Mhm.
You need to read different type of articles or materials so that it can broaden your vocab, and
Yeah.
you
Okay.
will know what is being asked, or what are you talking about on that specific
All
question.
right. So at
All
least
right.
all
Okay.
38 people here now know they need to look up genotype and Google what
but
it
So,
means.
but for me, when I've heard the word itself, even though I'm not really sure what is that word means, it pops up to my mind that, is that DNA,
Because it
or
has the
is that
word
something
gene
to
in
do
the
with
root.
DNA? Yeah, because there's a gene. So from there, okay, so I will answer it that, um, to be honest, I really do not know what does this word means, but I would hazard a guess, and then you will say what you've understood with regard to that word. So from there, you will formulate your answer.
Great.
I see. I see. Or I could directly ask the interlocutor, could you please define me what genotype is?
Someone is
No,
Well,
just
saying,
that's
could
kidding.
you
risky
elab?
for me.
Someone is saying, could you elaborate? Could you
Could you
elaborate?
elaborate?
Yeah,
I'm
you can
not
say,
sure.
can you elaborate? What do you mean by genotype?
Yeah. Could you just
Ma'am,
answer
can
this?
I,
Next question, please.
ma'am, is
and
our
then and
interlocutor aware also of the terminology or like the genotype?
Oh, they should know all the questions they're asking.
Oh yeah, I see. I see. I thought we
for well, for me, if it pop ups on this third part, definitely they know what they want to ask you.
yeah,
Okay,
so
so
they could agree.
yeah, or disagree, because
Yes. All right.
sometimes
All right.
I would say that most of the time they get the question for part three based on your follow up question on part two. So
Hmm.
Yeah.
it depends on you what is the, I would say, the content of your part three.
All right.
Mm,
I see.
okay. So his part two, sorry, we're taking a lot of time on this. His part two was about, a person that he admires, a
Mm-mm.
successful, someone who is successful. And so we can use those keywords. So we have gene in there.
Key.
We have type, which also means kind. So it's a type
Mm-hmm.
of person. So a
Success.
successful type of person. So what makes a person successful as compared to others? So it's kind of a compare and contrast here. So you're going to think successful people and maybe just not successful or regular people. So you can kind
I
of
see.
use those as some key things to clue you in, maybe. So yeah, it would be wonderful to say, actually, this is kind of a new word for me, but I think you're talking about what character traits make successful people set apart from the rest of the world. And here's my knowledge about that. As I mentioned before, Mr. Edmund, whatever, is a successful person. And I see
Yeah. All
character
right.
traits like determination and, so you could go
All right.
that
Other
way.
stuff.
Yeah, other
Yes.
Thank you,
stuff.
ma'am. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you for
Thank you.
coming.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah. Thank you
So
very much, ma'am. I really appreciate your effort for us.
we
Sure.
like your we love your calmness. We love your
Yeah,
You're calm.
exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you,
Thank you very much.
Paul. So
Thank
now
you.
let's move on with Kat. Kat, I saw her already. Kat,
Is it Kat? Kat. Okay.
it's
And then
Kat.
while we're waiting for Kat, we had a good question in here. Someone saying,
Hi.
when you're talking, is it okay to say, I think maybe once an exam, it's not a bad idea. But I would say be careful that it might become like a okay or a filler. So
Correct. That's
yeah.
correct. Well, as for me, to be honest, I'm not using it because I am not. I would say I'm not really into it before. Although they've told me that I can use it as a filler, but I don't know why I wasn't able to use it that time.
Yeah, maybe it just doesn't feel comfortable. Some
Yeah.
people,
Mm-mm.
grow up learning English and they have those kinds of fillers from whoever taught them. But if it's not something that you learned while you were learning, it might not be very natural. But yeah, it is a very natural thing when you're talking with friends. You're like, "Yeah, hey Kat, what's going on? Do you think the Euro Cup, who do you think's going to win? I think it's going to be Portugal. Yeah. So
Yeah.
something like that.
It's
But
something
yeah, I said it
filler.
way too many times. It is kind of a filler. All right. So Kat, are you ready to get started?
Yes, ma'am. Hello, good
Okay. Do you
Okay.
like to
afternoon.
go by Kat or Kathy?
You may call me Kathy.
Okay. All right. Let's get started. So what kind of university did you attend?
I I graduated from one of the prestigious school institution here in Puerto Princesa. It is on the southern part of Palawan, and it is basically a Christian school, and it helps to transmogrify or ameliorate the life of every individual in this kind of school.
Good. And do you want to study abroad?
Definitely yes, and I will be given an opportunity that would be next year, and I will be bringing my family in order for them also to experience the life in this particular country and to engage with different kind of culture to know about something their historical value.
Good. Excellent. And do you spend more or less time in the library?
I'm not so fond of reading different kinds of books such as horror story, but I love going to library because it is a place that helps me to find peace of mind. And there are some books that gives me comfort, such as hymnal books and also inspirational one. The one that I love or adore the most is what every Christian should know about growing. So that kind of book really helps me to become a successful person.
Good. All right. Are you ready for part two?
Let me just change my headset because I think it's already low bat.
No problem. And I'm going to put it into the chat for everybody. And then Gladys has it on the screen for us. And let me know when you're ready with your headset and I will read it. Can
Hello.
you can you hear me okay? It's okay.
Hello,
It's
Miss
okay.
Mandy.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Hello, Miss Mandy.
Yeah, can you hear me, Kat?
Sorry, my
That's okay.
phone was. I my.
That's okay. It's
Hello.
completely all right. Can you hear us
Okay.
okay?
Yes,
Can you give me a
ma'am.
thumbs up if you can hear me? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, good.
Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Don't worry about it. All right, let's read the question, and then we'll give you the minute to prepare. So, describe a home appliance that you think is useful. You should say what it is, where you get it from, and explain why you think it is useful. And you can have a minute to start now.
Okay.
Okay, so that is 1 minute.
Okay.
And when you are ready, you may begin.
I am thrilled to bits remembering one of the appliances that my father gave to me. It is actually a table, and I put some I put most of the pertinent documents in that kind of appliances. One of those is my laptop, which is imperative possession for me, and also the other reviewers that I've been using for the past couple of years now. And I was happy as a clam the moment I saw this appliances or table, because it is made by hand by my father, and it is color. There are two colors in it. There's a color white, and also it has a four tires, which helps me to transfer it to any corner of my place. And I really appreciate my father because he worked like a dog until he begged out just to make this kind of appliances. And I would like to share this as well to my daughter, because she is very curious about this table, because it is movable and I could just put everything I want to put in here. And also apart from that, it has a cabinet on the lower side of it where I can put my cards and other things or belongings that I value the most. On the left side of this table, I also put some of my ball pen, which are all expensive. Though some of the it has a lock on it so my family, particularly my daughter that has this inquisitive spirit, likes to get she likes to get those ball pens, because it is really it sparks her heart because of the color on it, because she's a toddler, being a toddler, it's really a kind of person that has this quiddity in mind. So that is one of the memorable experience.
Very good. Excellent. She sounds like a curious child. All right. And let's move on to part three. So, what do you think about the future of computer related jobs?
In accordance to that, I concur with the burgeoning of technology. We can definitely see that through the use of artificial intelligence, we are seeing that the future is becoming more exposed to this kind of uh, exposed to virtual things. For instance, in the surge of the pandemic COVID-19, majority of the jobs or the works are being established in homes. So this I might say that this is a good news for some people, because they have the huge opportunity for them to stay in their house while doing work. So that is my acumen to this notion.
Good. And what types of mobile games are popular in your country and why?
Well, I am by no means an expert about mobile games, but based on my observation, one of uh, the kind of game that hook or actually hook the youngsters are Mobile Legend. It is a kind of game that compete with other youngsters, and it really helps them to create friendship. Apart from that, it also helps them to be more creative when it comes to it helps them to be creative when it comes to school because they're applying these arts and crafts in expanding their interpersonal and cognitive skills as well.
Good. And what are the advantages of, I'm sorry, what are the advantages and disadvantages of working with a person not from your country?
Based on my observation, the fringe benefits of working with other people, particularly like foreigners or Americans, for instance, is we were able to adapt from their culture. And some of that is being a good leader. They have this good structure when it comes to kind of goal that they want to achieve. On the untippable side is we have this cultural barrier because Filipinos does not have this quality or quantity. Not all Filipinos, but some of us does not have this profound knowledge when it comes to English. So those are some of the hindrances and the good side of being while working with different kinds of nationality.
Good. Very good. And that concludes the speaking portion of your test.
Thank you,
Are you
Mandy, for
no
for this opportunity.
Yeah, I'm glad. Did you just get to jump in last minute, right?
Yes, because I just came from swab test because my brother just tested positive, so I need to make sure that
Oh
I
no.
will get. But thanks God because I'm negative for the COVID virus
Oh,
because
good.
because last month the whole family just tested for this virus, the virus.
Wow. So you have a lot on your mind while you're doing this.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, my exam has been postponed for 5 times already just because of this virus. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Well, maybe that's a blessing in disguise. So we'll see.
Yes, I think this is just a silver lining.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, good. That's a good attitude to have towards it rather than being
yeah,
frustrated. So I
yes.
said, "What kind of university did you attend?" And I liked how you changed it from attend to graduate, and that's perfectly fine and actually really natural. You said, "I graduated from one of the prestigious schools, from one of the prestigious school institutions." And you said what it was, and you said it's in the southern part of, and you said the name of the air. I think the area that it's from, and you said and it provides what kind of education it provides and how it prepares people, prepares students. So yeah, this was a great answer. And then if you wanted to say more, you could say, I attended 5 years ago, or you could say, I graduated 5 years ago, or it looks like you graduated last week because you look really
Okay, yes.
young.
Thank you.
Or you could say, about 5 years ago, I graduated from, or, and then if you want to say more, you could say, I hope to send my daughter to this school because it was just a wonderful experience for me and I want her to have that same opportunity. So, yeah, this is really great. Great answer. And then, do you want to study abroad? You said, definitely yes. And if I will be given the opportunity, that will be next year. And I will be bringing my family in order for them to experience the life and experience the culture as well. So, this was a great answer as well. Good. You had like a ready idea right away and you didn't hesitate.
Thank you,
Good.
Miss Anne.
And then, do you spend more or less time in the library? You said, I'm not too fond of reading different books like horror or things like that, but I like going to the library because it's a place that helps me find a peace of mind. And then you mentioned there's one kind of book there's books that you adore, and you said this kind of book that helps me to become a successful person. And you also mentioned the book title, which is a great thing to do to specifically talk about the book. Um, if you wanted to, I think you had enough to say, but if other people wanted to, try to figure out how to answer this question, they could talk about maybe the atmosphere in the library, what it's like, or as opposed to if you were going to a coffee shop as opposed to a library, what would be the benefits? Well, a library is it's very calm and quiet, actually kind of peaceful, and I can find a good peace of mind there. So, or you can talk about your specific library. So, really good answers. I would just encourage you, and I know you just have all of these things going on at the same time, to just slow down the talking just a little bit. And then that makes your answer seem a little bit longer
Okay.
and you don't feel rushed. But yeah, I'm glad you have a mask on to practice with, and make sure that, like the other students that we had, that you're talking a little bit louder than you normally would, and just enunciating very clearly. Um, all right, so I'm sorry, part two, describe a home appliance that you think is useful. Okay, this one is a little bit tricky because a table technically is not a home appliance, but this table is very important to you. So I'm trying to think, and someone can correct me, how we can take what they asked you, but change it to what you want to say because you have a lot of information. You can say, my house is full of home appliances, or my house doesn't have many home appliances, whatever you want to say. So my house is full of appliances. And then you can say, like a refrigerator, a microwave, an
Mm.
oven, and mention the appliances. So you show what an appliance is. However, those things don't really have much emotional value to me. And they don't have as much memories attached to them as this table that my dad made to me. And I know it's not an appliance, but I'd really like to tell you about it. And this is what happened. Talk about that. So, a table is definitely a piece of furniture. Um, and I don't know if the way that I changed it around is allowed or is considered cutting you down, but we'll see. So you said, I'm thrilled to be remembering one of the appliances that my father gave to me. So don't call the table an appliance because it's not an appliance, it's a piece of furniture. So we started at the beginning by saying, I have a lot of appliances on my home, but they really don't mean anything to me because they were just made by a company. There is a piece of furniture, however, that is very special to me, and it's one that my father made me. He gifted me a table. And you said, on this table, I keep my laptop and all of the things that I have been reviewing. I was happy as a clam the moment that I saw this because it was made by hand by my father. So you can say made by hand, or you can say handmade. It's easier to say if you want. Um, but you could definitely say it the way you said it too. You said, and it has two colors. And you talked about the colors. I really appreciate my father because he worked like a dog to make this for me. And I would also like to share this as well to my daughter. So we don't share to, you would like to share with your daughter. But I think I know what you mean. Instead of sharing it with her, that means you guys have it together. You want to pass it down to her, so that would be a better thing to say. I would like to pass it down to her, or to pass it on to her when she becomes older. So it's going to become like an heirloom, a family heirloom, or a family, something that's important to your family, like a family treasure. Um, and you said and we went a little bit off topic when we talked about, the lock on it because your daughter is very curious. You can mention that just really quickly, but you don't have to keep going on and saying about her personality. Um, and I know you're trying to use the full 2 minutes, so talking about everything under the sun about this table. Um, but yeah, you said, I also want to pass this on to my daughter, and as well, it also has it has a lock on it for curious people like my daughter who tend to open things they shouldn't. you know, and you talked about you keep some expensive. And what is the expensive thing that you put into it? Can you say it for me one more time?
Uh, Depends.
What expensive pens?
Yes, because
Oh,
I have plentiful of pens, different
a lo-
colors.
oh, okay, good. So
And
you really sound like you like office supplies, right?
Yes,
Yeah, good, good, excellent. And so you can kind of say, instead of talking more about the pens and your daughter's inquisitive spirit, you can say, uh, to be honest with you, every time I sit at this table, it just brings me really fond memories of my father. And I think I could care less what it looked like or what it, if it was beautiful or not. But the most important thing to me is that he made it and he thought of me when he was making it. And so, yeah, this is definitely not an appliance. It's a piece of furniture, but I just wanted to share something that has meaning with you.
yes,
So I don't know if that's going to be allowed, but we'll see. But I think if you definitely tell them at the beginning, hey, I know what an appliance is, but I don't want to talk about an appliance. I want to talk about a useful table that I have. So, all right. Um, Number three, part three. So, what do you think about the future of computer related jobs? And you said, in accordance to that, I concur that with the burgeoning of technology through the use of artificial intelligence, we can see that the future is becoming more exposed to these kinds of virtual things. For example, during the pandemic, people were working at home, and you said, I might say that this is good news. And you said the good news, but just you can say this is good news without the for some people. And then they have the huge opportunity to stay at home or to work from home. And this is great. You can also, if you want, contrast it with people who can't stay home, but that might be going a little bit off topic. So I think where you went was good. And you can mention a specific type of job that is now at home. So, we could say in the past, teachers had to go into a school, but through technology and, items like Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Skype, they're able to be safe and also still do their job from this, the comfort of their home. And then, what type of mobile games are popular in your country? You had a lot of good information for something you said you're not an expert about. You said, well, I am by no means an expert about mobile games. But based on my observation, the kind of game that actually has that hooks the youngsters is Mobile Legend. It really helps them to create friendships. Apart from that, it helps them to become creative when it comes to, other things. And you also mentioned that it helps them with interpersonal and cognitive skills. So, yeah, you've got a lot of things going there. You might want to mention it's a mobile game, so you can kind of say this app. So we can use some new kind of technology that this is an app that students or kids can download on their phone or their tablet. Um, just instead of using mobile games because they use mobile games, you might want to say, um, you know, something a little bit different. But yeah. And then, sorry, my voice is going away. What are the advantages and disadvantages of working with a person not from your country? And I was wonderful. It was great to hear you call them foreigners or those outside of your country. So great use of vocabulary. And you said, based on my observation, the benefits of working with other people, particular like foreigners or Americans, is we're able to adopt from their culture, to gather things from their culture. And you mentioned some positive things. And then you said on the antithetical side is we have this, did you say language barrier? Was that right?
yes.
Yeah,
Cultural
a
values.
cultural barrier. Okay, a culture barrier. Um, so yeah, you could mention that. You could also mention language barrier, culture barrier, um, where when you're talking about culture barrier, um, and then you mentioned English, that is more of a language barrier. So if you're going to talk about a cultural barrier, make sure you mention something that is cultural and not language related. So let's say, for instance, I know a lot of people get annoyed by Americans when they enter a home, they don't take off their shoes. And in other countries, that's the first thing that people do is when they enter a home is they take off the shoes because it's polite and you're not bringing in dirt. So this is a cultural difference between the United States and other countries around the world. Or you can say, other cultural differences that could possibly be is Americans are always on their phone, and it's not considered rude to be on your phone while you're with somebody else, but maybe it is considered rude in your country. So, yeah, just if specifically, since you mentioned English, you want to make sure you say a language barrier or cultural barrier. A language barrier is English, and cultural barrier would be something different. So, and I
Okay.
liked how you ended. So, those are some of the hindrances and the good sides of working with someone from another country. So, good job.
Thank you, Miss
How do you
Mandy.
feel?
I feel relieved.
You feel relieved that it's over? I wish this was your real one, but no, we don't.
Yes.
We want you to do a really good job on your real one.
Yes.
Hopefully, it will get rescheduled soon so that you can get it over with and lift that weight off your shoulders. Um,
Yes.
did you have any questions for Gladys or I? Or Gladys can chime in and give her opinion as well.
No. Hello.
Mhm.
Okay.
Hello,
Hi,
Ma'am
Kat.
Gladys.
Hi, Kat. Congratulations in advance.
Hi, thank you.
We want you to give the vibe of you already passed the exam. Okay, so
Yay.
just keep on practicing.
Aiming for that.
Yes, and
Yeah.
always remember to focus on what is being asked. So just like on your part two, so it is a appliance, not a furniture. Okay, but just like what Mandy have mentioned a while ago, if you really do not want to talk about that appliance, you can just say the way just like what Mandy had told us earlier. And then another thing, be confident. Be confident because earlier I can sense the nervousness on your answer. So be confident, Miss Cat. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Is it too fast the way I talk?
I would slow down just a little bit.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Just
Just a
because it
little
makes
bit.
you seem a little nervous. I don't think it doesn't affect your pronunciation. It doesn't affect the ability to understand you, but it does make it feel like it's in a rush. Um, but I do appreciate that as soon as you were given a question, you had a ready answer.
Answer.
So you didn't stare at me and say, or, but you use those good fillers, according to, or I'm by no means an expert on this, or, you know, things like that. So you did a good job on that as well.
Thank you, Miss
Yes.
Mandy.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you, Miss
So,
Gladys.
any question,
And
Miss Cat?
on the topic of the furniture versus appliance, I don't want to encourage people who get a question about appliances and say, I don't want to talk about an appliance, but I would love to tell you about my favorite pet. Those items are not related at all. And so that makes it sound like you don't know what you're talking about. Appliances and furniture are both items that are used in the home, and they're useful, and you see them every day. So I think when you explain, you know, you don't have any connection to appliances, but you really have something else in your home that is useful, that still is somewhat on topic. But yeah,
Yes.
don't go
Correct.
way out in left field.
from from non-living things to a pet to a living thing, that's
Yes,
different.
yeah, yeah. It would be very, very odd. They would be like, "Did you hear me?"
Correct.
So, yeah, Kat,
Okay.
did you have anything
Cat.
you wanted to say before we end?
That's all, ma'am. Thank you for the comments as well as the suggestions. It's really play a huge bond for my to furtherance and to flourish my vocabulary as well as on how to answer the questions, particularly the part two.
Yeah,
Yes,
that
you need
one's
to
hard.
focus on part two because part two is your time to shine.
Yeah,
It's only you who
yes,
is talking
Yeah.
that's
for two
true.
minutes. So give everything that you got. Okay. So thank you, Miss
You can
Kat.
do it.
You can do it.
Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am.
So
And I
Mandy,
wish your family good health. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Miss
get well
Grace.
You're
soon,
welcome.
your
Yeah,
family.
Gladys.
Okay. So
Yeah.
how was your morning? It's too early.
Well,
To
to be
get our
honest, it's quite early. Yeah. The sun has just arisen in Florida, if
uh
anyone wanted to know.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
and my voice is still tired from the night before.
well, that's how you love us because you managed to wake up early for
Yes.
us. Okay, so I think that's
Well,
it.
you all actually did me a favor. You did me a favor by moving the time for me, so I say thank you to everyone.
Thank you, thank you. Okay,
All
so I think
right.
that's
Bye,
it. Thank you,
everyone.
Mandy. Bye. See you again next week.
Bye. See you
Bye.
next week.
Bye.
Bye.